After I left Shakina's home in Channelview, Texas, the man named Jakeba came and got me and brought me to Chambers County at 3123 Eagles Ferry Road. He had a dishonorable discharge. He had warrants for drugs, and he was going to get the warrants dropped while I was there. There was a woman named Judy. She had gotten a new car. There was a man named Jakemba, who was Jakeba's brother, and he had previously had shot someone. And then there was a male named Travis Trigger Gumbs, and he had just served 5 years in prison. They were shooting guns, and I was having to have sex with Jakeba and Travis, but I never had unprotected sex with them. And I told Jakeba about what had happened to me, and they took me to the custody hearing for my son. And I also had a job at Sonic, but Jakeba's car had broken down, and then Judge Tracy Gilbert had said that I didn't take a parenting class that they never told me about. They never emailed me because they had my email on file. They had sent me emails about other stuff, but all of a sudden that disappeared from my email, and they never sent me anything about a parenting class, and I did not need to take a parenting class. But anyway, so they said that this was why they were going to reset something, so they reset it for another day. And on this day, Jakeba and Jakemba were saying that they would not bring me to this court date, so I ended up having to leave from there. But before I left, Travis Trigger Gumbs pulled out a gun on me. They had all went and got guns, and they spent like a lot of money on these guns. And Travis Trigger Gumbs had a woman sending him about $500 a week, who he was saying was his mother from the Virgin Islands. And then they were saying that they were going to have to move. So they were like, oh, we're going to have to move, and he was like, well, you're going to have to hurry up and get up out of here, because my mom's going to come and sell the property. And so I had gotten sick because Jakeba was cooking me food and stuff like that. And he said that he had gotten sick first or whatever, but I was throwing up and everything, and I had him take me to the hospital and the clinic because I was still having fetal movements, and they denied my pregnancy at the Chambers County clinic in Chambers County, and they threatened to call the police on me. And then he took me to a couple of hospitals in Baytown, Texas, that were asking for my insurance, and I was not allowed to even get out of the vehicle to come into their hospital because they claimed that I did not have any insurance. So I went to one hospital, and I had them take me, and I fell out right in front of the hospital in Baytown, Texas, and I just laid there on the ground because I was breathing hard. I was having a lot of pains. I was just like all out of there. I had been throwing up, so I needed a doctor. And I didn't know what was wrong with me. I had some stinging in my vagina. Like, it was some stinging in my vagina. And so I didn't know, like, if somebody had gave me something or, why I was throwing up, because I had never experienced, like, a natural birth or anything. With Melbourne, I had drugs. I had the medical staff. I don't know. Like, I had an epidural, but with this, I didn't know. So I was on the ground, I was so small that I didn't think that it would cause me any pain when he came out, because I was so fearful because of how small I was. And I did allow Jakeba, I pulled him in the room, and I didn't tell Trigger, but I told Jakeba that I had been pregnant before I came into the home, because I was only there because I left Shakina's house in October. So I came in August to Shakina's house, and by October I was leaving by the end of October to go to Jakeba's house. So I was there for Thanksgiving, and by December I was all falling out and going into labor, and I had gone to this child custody hearing. And I left at the beginning of December so I could finish going to the child custody hearings, because after the first one, they didn't want to go. And there was another one set for like December 10th or 16th. So I was gone, and I never went back to Jakeba's property because Trigger pulled a gun out on me the night before I was supposed to be to court or something like that. And this was like the second time that he had pointed a gun in my head, and he had held me in the trailer with the gun like a couple of times, threatening me, talking about putting my that he put female bodies in the woods before, and saying that he had done this and he does this, he would do that to an American woman, and that he has killed a woman and buried her body before. And so I was very afraid, and I knew that I needed to leave. And Jakeba, they were all getting into altercations where they were pulling out guns. Like Jakeba and Jakemba were pulling out guns in the kitchen, and I was standing right there. They were shooting out back, and it was a lot. And then the other neighbors were coming and shooting. So by the time that I went into labor, I done fell all out in front of I didn't know if I was in labor or what, but I know this is what happened. I felt like I was sick. I didn't know what was going on. And Jakeba had been throwing up too, so I don't know if he was like really throwing up, but it seemed like whatever I had going on was really, really, really the real deal, because he didn't need a doctor. I was the one who needed a doctor. So I went I got out of the car, and I fell out in front of the emergency room, and they were like, "Ma'am, get up off the floor," like, "Ma'am," and I could not, and I would not, because I was like, y'all are going to see me up in this facility. And so they came and got me up and told me that I had to wait in the emergency room, and I just got on the floor and laid on the floor again, and the nurse came. The nurse told me that I needed to get off of the floor in the emergency room, and I was having a very hard time, and I was shaking, and Jakeba was holding me, and I just didn't know what was happening. And so they took me into a room, and they did blood tests and urine samples, because they had done urine samples at Chambers County and told me that I was not pregnant. And so when I went to this hospital, they came in telling me that they put me under a Xray, and they told me that my left kidney was swollen. Now, I do lay on my left side a lot, and the baby is usually on my left side. Or they say your left kidney is swollen and you have a urinary tract infection. And there was a white nurse who was blonde, and she came in and said, I had a urinary tract infection when I was pregnant. But they were telling me that I was not pregnant. The male nurse told me, doctor told me that I was not pregnant. And so I was in the bed there for days, and they had hooked me up to water and said they needed to keep me for a while. And I was shaking in the bed, and I was getting up and I was throwing up, and they were saying that they were giving me antibiotics to clear up the urinary tract infection. They said that it was not sexually transmitted, and I was not doing anything without condoms with these two individuals. And so I knew that I was still pregnant. I could just feel that I was pregnant, and I was afraid that whatever they were giving me would harm my baby, because they had gave me a bottle of pills, and they told me that the bottle of pills would clear up the urinary tract infection. So I was at Jakeba and Trigger's house, and I remember, shaking and throwing up and taking the pills, and then it kind of made it go away. And so they told me to take the whole bottle of pills, and I believe that I did take the whole bottle of pills, but they were telling me to take it at a certain time, and I wasn't taking it exactly at the time that they were saying to take it, but I was taking it. And I don't believe at this point that I had a urinary tract infection, because there was stinging in my cervix when I was at Shakina's home, and this was after I had began to be sexual with men, and I was allowing the men, I allowed one or two of the men to have sex with me unprotected because I had done some research and found out that the semen and something in the male semen could soften the cervix and cause it to dilate. So this is why I took the risk of having sex with a male without knowing really what was going on with him, because I needed to get that baby up out of me. So I did start to feel the stinging, and and I was throwing up. So I felt like, oh my God, maybe somebody gave me something. But at this point, I realized that I was probably in labor, and that it worked because that was the goal. And I think that whatever they gave me, again, because they were doing things to me in the jail to stop my labor, I believe that they were stopping my labor, and that they just were not confirming the fact that I was actually pregnant in the hospitals in Baytown. And so I believe that they kept me, monitoring me in the hospitals, knowing that I was pregnant, while lying to me and telling me that it was urinary tract infection. I already knew when they said that my left kidney was swollen, that my left kidney was not swollen. I knew that they had saw that I was pregnant, and I knew that they were being very malicious with the results by telling me that my kidney was swollen because my kidney was not swollen. And so, and I knew that I was pregnant. And this is part of the reason why I say it's psychological abuse, because a woman who has given birth to a child, when you're pregnant. And so for you to have predators and bullies and people who are abusing you psychologically by abusing your body and your children inside of your body, and then trying to blame it on you and create situations where they could blame it on you, it is very malicious, and it is very wicked, to do that to someone. You're treating that person like a specimen. You're treating that person like, they're nothing to you. And that's basically what all of these hospitals were doing to me. And I was very healthy for them to put me at risk by having these males intimidate me. And so basically, after he had brought me back home, I took the medicine, and they were trying to hurry and get me out of the home, but they were trying to keep me from going to the custody court date. And Judy and Jakemba was saying that they would not take me to the court date, but they would take me to work. And so I was like, no. I did not want to be in a home with people pulling out guns on me, with Travis pulling out guns on me. And I did not want to be in a home where people would try to force me to pay their rent, where I had only been living for a short time, and I didn't mind paying the rent, but you are going to take me to this one court date for my child. And it seemed like they were purposely being malicious, trying not to take me to this court date. And I want to document the fact that I'm sitting right here at the Mark A. Wallace Tower at Texas Children's Hospital, and there are several individuals who are doing operations around me where they are coming past me to try to hear what I'm saying, because they are involved with covering up my pregnancy, and they also have been involved with trying to have me arrested to go back to the Montgomery County Jail for them to continue to cover this up. And then the woman is getting on the phone and making phone calls after she's coming past me sitting on this bench, to tell what I'm saying. So this is very wicked, because I didn't have family, I didn't have friends, I didn't have anybody to say, y'all need to stop abusing her body. I did not have a lawyer to come and represent me, because they basically were corrupt. So they were not saying, hey, we care about our citizens in America. You're not going to just abuse her. The police were involved. So I left their home in the beginning of December, and I came at the end of October, and I was just small, but I was still pregnant. And so I had Jakemba drop me off, because they were saying that they would not bring me out there. But I went to Jakemba after Travis had pulled a gun out on me the night before, and he had been pulling guns out on me in the home, and I didn't tell Jakeba because I liked Travis a lot, and I didn't want Jakeba to get angry, because Jakeba was threatening to shoot everyone in the home, and these were altercations that I did not know were staged. And so I felt so vulnerable and sad that I was going through all of this, not knowing that the state had put these individuals up to doing this violence around me and making my life so extremely miserable when I was released from the Montgomery County Jail. And so I went to Jakeba's brother, and I had talked to his mother on the phone several times, and she was involved, if that was really even his mother, because she had allowed them to bring me there knowing that, they were not being genuine, or maybe she did not know, but I believe she did, or at least Travis's mother, whoever he was claiming, because she was sending him a lot of money, and then all of a sudden, they were going to stop sending him money, and then he tried to take my money, and I asked him to give it back, and he got very angry. So I believe that they were trying to keep me without money. And another thing was that they started arguing over food. Like Judy was saying, oh, don't eat this, and they were saying, don't eat that, and then Jakeba was going in the cabinet, and he was eating up everything. But I had a lot of snacks and things like that in the room with me from the local Dollar General store, and now I believe that they were probably tampered with, because it was the only Dollar General that was in that area, and I still have individual staging. There are Chinese women and white males and black males who are continuing to come near me while I'm speaking, because they are trying to hear what I am saying, because I know what they have been doing. They have been staging for me to go into people's homes since I was out of the jail, who were trying to cover up my pregnancy and the evidence to my case, and the fact that my child was taken from me illegally, and people were trying to have me arrested to go back to the Montgomery County Jail. So right now I'm pretty much homeless outside, and I haven't slept, and I got a bag of food, but I need to get back to the details about what happened. So I was crying about my son, and I was screaming like, oh, Lord Jesus, like, how you're screaming to God, because you deserve your baby, and you need your baby, and what they doing is wrong. So I started screaming and crying to God, and they kept leaving me with Trigger, like Jakeba was saying he was going to work, and Jakeba and Judy was leaving, and then Jakeba was eating up everything, and that was just, Trigger started complaining about the snacks. Like at first they were saying, oh, you can eat stuff, and I think that's how they reeled me in, was because every time I got to somebody's house, they would give me a plate or something, or they would give me food. They would seem real hospitable. They'll be like, oh, you can lay right here, or oh, I got some food for you, and then they would start being like, oh, you got to get the hell out, and then they'll be like, you need to get your money up, and then they'll be like, starving me, like, oh, don't eat my stuff, and this was, and then sometimes even becoming violent. So I did not realize that this was staged by the state to try to have me incarcerated to be murdered to cover this up. At first I was thinking that people were just being evil, how black people can be sometimes, and how racist the white people can be sometimes, and how racist other ethnicities can be sometimes. So I just figured that that's what it was, just pure racism. But then when I realized that these individuals were completely coming around to spy and listen to see what I was saying, to continue to plot on my life, then I was like, okay, I gotta go back and look at the details of everybody's house who I've been into, because I'm by myself, and they're still trying to keep me in their custody. They don't want to let me go free. And so basically that's how they were reeling me in, was to make me think that they cared, and then they would start doing these things. So after he pulled the gun on me because I was crying and screaming about everything that was going on, he was asking me like if he could come on my face, and they were doing like, they were acting like they were going to fight over me. Jakeba had left a gun in the dresser drawer in my room after Trigger was pulling the gun out on me, and I did think about going to grab that gun, but I already had a gun charge before, and I told Trigger, I said, you were acting really foolish, because they tried to give me 99 years, and I told him about my case, and I said, so I would not just pull a gun out on someone if it was unnecessary, because I had not done anything. I was crying, and he was like, stop. So by this point, I was crying over my son because people were doing me really wrong, and I knew that I deserved to have my baby, and I didn't deserve to be being treated that way by those men. And, I would stay in the room most of the time, and that's when Trigger and Judy was coming to ask me to come out. They were asking me, oh, do you want some food? And then when I said I wanted some food, Trigger was saying, do you need some money? And I was like, yeah. And then he was telling me that I had to do sexual things for him in order to have the money, and that's what Jakeba did too. So that's pretty much how it got started. And if I would ask anybody else that I met, like if I could get some food, they would kind of like get a bad attitude, and they probably wouldn't do it, or they would, but then they wouldn't come back again. And so I needed to leave after he pulled the gun on me again, because the Holy Spirit came over me and let me know that he could rob people and then like make me help him. And that's what I was thinking, like, because he was saying he was going to rob people in the area. Like he was like, oh, if I had a car, I would rob these people around here. And I was thinking, well, thank God we don't have one, because I would not do that with you. And so I remember like the Holy Spirit coming over me like, this man has a lot of issues, and you need to get up and leave because he is capable of killing you. And I understand you may love him or like him, but I was actually in a very vulnerable state. So I did need to leave for my son because they were trying to keep me from the custody court date. So I asked Jakemba, Jakeba's brother, I said, can you please just drop me off in Conroe, Texas? And I had him drop me off at Reverend Stewart's house, and I lied to Travis Trigger Gumbs about that I was going to come back. So Travis Trigger Gumbs was like, hey, are you going to come back? And I told him no. I told him, yeah. I was like, I'm going to come back. I'm just going to my baby's court date, and then I'll come back. And he looked at me like funny, and then that was the last time I saw him, because I knew from the Holy Spirit not to come back. So Jakemba dropped me off, and Jakeba had brought me a laptop, and I had to leave a lot of my clothing and things like that because they were acting really violent with me and very belligerent. So hold on, there's someone over here. I need to pause for a sec. So the male right here needed to change the trash can, and I could have swore I just saw a male walk past me with the mask on that was an actor from television. But anyway, I swear I have seen quite a few of celebrity people out here since this all has happened. But anyway, so, and I do know that some of them are aware of what happened. But anyway, so basically, what is really tripping me out is that he was being very belligerent, and they while I was in the room, and they were being very hostile with me. I knew that I needed to leave because it seemed like I was the target of these altercations, and I was the target of hostility, and I am a very peaceful person. I know I had my case going on, but being that they did not want to take me to the custody court date and that Trigger had put the gun on me, I needed to leave. So I had Jakeba's brother, Jakemba, drop me off. Now he couldn't bring me back, but I had him drop me off, and I did not want to come back. I did not need to come back, so I had him drop me off at Reverend Stewart's house in Conroe, Texas, and I went to the child custody court date from Reverend Stewart's house, and Reverend Stewart took me. So I'll get into that on the next video. But this is basically about I left their house at 3123, and this I was only there from the end of October to the beginning of December. So he is now my child's father. They all had charges in the home. They were all being violent, and belligerent and trying to starve me. They took me to places where they denied my pregnancy. He was outside making phone calls to these women, and I did not know that they were making phone calls to, deny my pregnancy until, oh, she's doing this, oh, she's doing that, oh, she want to go get a pregnancy test. And this is what people are doing now. So they're coming around me trying to hear what I'm saying so they could try to, counter me putting this evidence out. Just like when I was going to go to get ultrasounds, they were like, oh, where you going? So they could try to counter it and call in favors to get people not to confirm. And they were countering me being able to eat by tampering with the food or having me in the area where all of the food in that area was already tampered with before I was brought to that location, and already setting up criminals and people who would try to start fights with me knowing that I was pregnant, or that would try to make me distraught, because this is a very important case. And they were also trying to keep me from my son. So at Shakina's house, like I said, the lack of food, the starving, the making me walk, or taking me places where they're denying my pregnancy and then kicking me out, and I don't have nowhere to be before my custody court day, and then trying to do that as well, like, oh, well, we're just not going to bring you to your court date. And I still went and made it to this court date. So I need to go deeper into this conspiracy to let you guys know what happened at Reverend Stewart's house, because this is why people are following me right now, why I'm sitting in front of the Texas Children's Hospital and my phone is dying. So I'm going to have to go somewhere and charge up this phone so I can continue letting you guys know what's going on, because people have been trying to set me up to be murdered. And I left LaMarcus Sanders last night, and he tried to have me arrested, and the police, the HPD, was like, there was no reason to arrest me. And he called because I wanted to get away from him when I realized that he was involved with trying to keep me from my son and keep me from putting out the evidence that I was pregnant and what they have been doing to me. Then he said, oh, I'm going to call the police, and he tried to say that I ran out into traffic and that I was a danger to myself, and that was a lie. He was trying to attack me, and I told him to back away from me, and then he called the police to try to have the police make me come with him or be arrested. And then I said I would, call the police.